This is a matchup in round 3 of the Use It Lose It tournament. Centurion coming up against Danko. Centurion beating Blade Master to get here, and it was a good game. It was a game that I mean, it was a very weird game. A game I didn't necessarily see him winning, but it turned out alright in the end. For him, that is. So, Arerni up against Carthage. Good matchup. 4 heavy horse. Yep, 4 heavy horse. The levy free, of course. Naked warriors. A very interesting choice against Carthage. Chosen swords. Oathsworn and an Oathsworn. So 2 Oathsworn, a few naked swords, a few Gallic hunters, some chosen swords. Standard Arerni stuff. The weirdest thing here, though, would be the naked warriors to me. That's a peculiar choice. For Carthage, we have Libyan infantry, so 4 Libyan infantry, I think. Yeah, 4 Libyan infantry. Then mercenary Scutari together with mercenary Gallics. We have a sneaky elephant in the forest. Not so sneaky anymore. Then we have a front line of late Libyan hoplites, Carthaginian cavalry on the flanks, together with a mercenary Celtic light horse. So already I really like the Carthaginian army. I like the setup, the triple line infantry, cavalry flanks. It's not the most powerful Carthaginian army by a long shot, but it's a very nice one. It's one that, if used correctly, can be very powerful. But using it correctly against Arerni basically comes down to whether or not Arerni is going to be able to get the precursor volley off on the elephants, because once they do that, the elephants run amok. So Carthage going triple line here means that it's going to be more difficult to tie down all of the Arerni units, and that might be what Arerni is relying on here, because as you can see, Arerni is taking up a huge portion of the battlefield here. So the Carthaginian infantry is taking up about half the amount of space, or even less, than the Arerni infantry. And that also means that the elephants going in, they have to cover a lot of distance, and it just increases the odds of the precursors happening. Mercenary Celtics being used to scout a bit. We have Celtic slingers in the forest, Celtic slingers, so 4 Celtic slingers. A nice addition to an Arerni army, giving them a bit of versatility. Now, ironically, Carthage is the faction that has to engage in this case. Carthage is the faction that completely lacks skirmishers, and Arerni could push at a leisurely pace here and just keep chipping away at the Carthaginian units. At some point, Carthage has to engage, although the terrain here is a bit weird. Like, if Carthage pulls back, then they have Carthage will be able to fight downhill. If Arerni obliges Carthage, that is. But if I am commanding Carthage and I'm looking across the field at this Arerni army, then I'm basically thinking, good game, I lost. I'm going to try to do what I can to prevent that from happening, but this is a daunting prospect, because the late Libyan hoplites are not going to be able to buy you much time. They are levy freemen with less health and less weapon damage and higher melee attack, but less health, more armor, less health, more morale. They are a decent little unit, just the lack of precursors. So getting an engagement over here, the Carthaginian cavalry charging levy freemen in the forest. So didn't lose anything, took a bit of hit point damage, I'm sure. But the levy freemen are soon to be in precursor range. They didn't fire their precursors, so might have been worth it there for the Carthaginian cavalry. Always nice to do a bit of damage to the enemy almost for free. If that indeed was almost for free, because this unit might just start dropping very quickly once it hits melee with another unit due to the hit point damage. And just the versatility that Levy Freeman gives you being able to chase cavalry like this, and just kill seven cavalrymen from a single volley. Just such a nice unit for you, and such an annoying unit for anyone who plays against them. That's one of the big reasons why these low tier late Libyans aren't as fun. Chosen swords against mercenary Scutari. The mercenary Scutari are not going to like that engagement one bit. Combat even thus far. They don't have shield wall, but using Libyan infantry as second line. And now Arerni pushing on the flanks here. Carthage obviously wants to win here and try to refuse the flanks and isolate the Arerni flanks from the rest of the army. Now the chosen swords are losing decisively here against the Libyans, and very nicely done, pulling out the mercenary Scutari. Perfect. Getting the Libyan infantry in, they're going to do fairly well against the Chosens in extended melee because they have shield wall, and then getting the Scutari out. This is something you see good players do quite a lot. That it's difficult to pull off timing wise. It's a bit risky, but I'm just going to have to pause it because I'm going to have to talk a bit more about that, because that just looks like such a little thing, but it might be huge in some cases. Because let's have a look at the engagement here. So the mercenary Scutari go in. From the other side, chosen swords go in, and the chosen swords get attack orders on the mercenary Scutari. They fight a bit. The Libyan infantry comes in to support. They have attack orders now on the chosen swords. So what happens? What could happen when the Scutari, mercenary Scutari, are being pulled out? Is that the Libyan infantry prevent them from losing men by being attacked in the rear and such. That's one thing. But another thing that might happen, and that just creates situations where it's hard to understand what happened because a unit suddenly starts losing like crazy, is that the chosen swords could try to follow the unit they had attack orders on, but then they're getting attacked on the way there by the Libyan infantry, and the Libyan infantry then does exceedingly well against the chosen swords. So, I mean, here we have Libyan infantry that has caused 20 casualties to the chosen swords and only taken 2 casualties. So I'm not entirely sure that's what happened here, but that's something you can use that can be very effective if you have several units to spare. If you have several lines of infantry, send in a unit, send in another unit, pull out the unit, and magical things can happen, or you could just lose horribly. So it can be risky, but very, very powerful when used at the right time. Now the heavy horse fighting Carthaginian cav here. The heavy horse, of course, wins that engagement on the charge quite handsomely. Let's see, the elephants though. The elephants are super important in this fight. The Libyan infantry are now losing to chosen swords. Both units using their shield walls. Naked warriors just will wreck Libyan hoplites. The mercenary Gallic warriors, they're just not as good as Celtics because they lack charge bonus compared to them. African war elephants going away from the center and wanting to join the fights. The mercenary Scutari now get their second charge in. The elephants are going to have problems punching through here, punching through the Chosens. Ooh, flaming and instant amok on the African war elephants. So they are going to be killing some of these mercenary Scutari and killing some of these Libyans if they don't just disengage completely. A lot of Carthaginian units are having problems. The Libyan infantry should be able to do well here against the chosen swords. Sneaky little unit of mercenary Celtic light horse trying to get a sneaky charge on these. Yeah, they didn't even get the charge there. They got charged, and being light, they just disappear under the onslaught of heavy melee cavalry. So Carthage is losing across the battlefield. The mercenary Scutari getting charged by Oathsorn are not going to like that. A nice frontal cav charge by the heavy horse there. And on the flanks, Carthage, the elephants would have needed to do a lot of killing there, but they're just going to be constantly running amok here due to the... there's a Gallic hunter somewhere. Yeah, due to these Gallic hunters. So they are on elephant control. There's just... It's very hard for Carthage, this. Carthage having worse units in every single category except skirmish and elephants. Those are the only things that Arerni lack, and Arerni it's Carthage is kind of like a Greek faction. They have better melee units overall. They have better melee cavalry overall, but against barbarians, their swords just they lack the killing power, and that killing power has to be made up for by cavalry or elephants or skirmishers, and all of those three much riskier options than just having a crap ton of good infantry. So Arerni doing its thing, getting the engagements to swing ever so slightly in Arerni's favor by just sending in unit after unit with good charge bonuses. The naked warriors are a curious choice against Carthage there, but why not? I mean, personally, I would never consider it, but it's yeah, I don't see them contributing to the victory in any meaningful way. It can be a nice unit in certain situations. Libyan infantry, nice little unit, but Oathsworn, of course, will smash them. So Centurion takes it, wins. He definitely had the stronger faction. But that being said, I've seen Carthage being used against Arerni to great effect, but only in one way, and that way is using cavalry to tie down enemy cavalry, infantry, frontal cav charges, and then the elephants doing their thing. But against this amount of skirmishers, against this amount of precursors, that's not going to be very easy to do. Especially when any decent player knows that Carthage against the barbarian faction is going to be relying on skirmish or an elephant or both to be able to win the battle. They just can't outsword Arerni. There is no way. So Centurion did the smart thing here. He was able to neutralize the elephants by mirroring them with the Gallic hunters. And mirroring them with the Gallic hunters was, I mean, essential, very essential, because if he hadn't done that, then the elephants could have killed an Oathsworn and punched through and caused a lot of problems. I still think that the Arerni army was strong enough that they were it could have been able to handle the Carthaginian army. This is a very good example of Oathsworn being used second line and being used well supported. Then you'll see them getting nice kills and not take very many casualties. On Carthage's side, nothing really stands out in terms of performance. Most of the units, just although there were some nice moves with units switching, most units were just matched up against superior enemy units that had better support, and they died. So first battle goes to Centurion. Let's see what happens in game number 2. Strength and Honor.